Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right, good afternoon. I'm David Bowditch, the Assistant Director in charge of the Los Angeles Field Office. I want to first of all thank you for coming today, but I also want to introduce my partners. You know the Chief of San Bernardino Police Department, Jared Berguan, the Sheriff, John McMahon of San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, the Special Agent in charge of the ATF, Eric Harden, and the Chief of Redlands Police Department, Mark Garcia, and then the Head of Counterterrorism in LA, Steve Woolry, for the FBI. First off, I want to tell you that through the holidays, our folks were working this investigation. They continued to work it. This is, as I've said from day one, this is a priority investigation and will continue to be such. To date, we've conducted over 550 interviews. We have collected 500 pieces of evidence. We've also executed 29 search warrants on this investigation to date. We have scrubbed a number of social media. As I told you from day one, that was one of our big focuses, to ensure that we are able to hopefully determine the motivation of Saeed Farouk and his wife. Based on a variety of sources, we have determined, at least to some extent, the movements of Saeed and Tashfeen that date after the actual incident, before and after the incident occurred. We have accounted for 3 hours and 42 minutes of their time. We are missing 18 minutes of their time. So why is that 18 minutes so important? It's important because we want to ensure that we know whether or not they stopped at any locations, any residences, any businesses that we don't already know about. We want to ensure that if they made contact with anyone that we don't already know about between those hours, or between that time, that we're able to fully investigate those matters. I've told you from day one, we will leave no stone unturned in this investigation. This is not an average investigation. We all know that. That's obvious. But for that purpose, that's why we're really here today. We want to talk directly to the public, and we want to ensure that they understand what we're missing. And I'm going to go through a timeline very quickly for you. And then I'm going to ask the public to hopefully help us out with this investigation, and to, if you have information, to come to us with it. So the timeline, as we know so far, they left their house at 8:37 a.m. on December 2nd. They arrived at he left his house at 8:37 a.m. He arrived at the IRC at 8:47 a.m. He left the IRC at 10:37 a.m. He then returned. There's about 19 minutes there. He later returned to the IRC at 10:56 a.m. And over the next few minutes, the attack took place inside the IRC, where multiple people were shot and 14 people were killed. They then visited Lake Seacom at roughly 11:45 a.m. that morning. The missing timeline I have, and this is where I asked the public's, for the public's assistance, the missing timeline we have is from 12:59 p.m. to 1:17 p.m. on December 2nd. Again, 12:59 to 1:17 p.m. That's 18 minutes of time we're missing. Now, how did we account for this? We accounted for this from a variety of sources: traffic cameras, surveillance cameras, witness accounts, and other techniques. And that's the time that we're missing. And we just want to make sure that if the public has any media in their holdings, witnessed any sightings, that you come to us and please give us that information, because we want to make absolutely certain that we know as much as we can possibly know about their activities, both before and after the attack that day, leading up to the point where the police engaged them and ultimately killed them both. I'm going to point out the map, and the map is here. As you can see, the L shape that you see goes through the city of Redlands and the city of San Bernardino. That is the area that we know these two were in following and prior to the shooting. They went back and forth, and it's a whole route that they took, and there's no rhyme or reason that we can make for it yet. However, again, that 18 minutes is critical. We know they went and they parked at certain places, and we know they spent some time at those places. We don't know necessarily what they were doing at those places, but that route is important for you to understand. In the spirit of leaving no stone unturned for the victims, that's why we're here. And we ask the public to call. The number that I'm going to give to you for the public is 1-800-225-5324. That's 1-800-CALL-FBI. When you call in as the public, you hit option 4. Once you hit that option, you will be directed to a physical person, and they will assess your call, and if necessary, they will send you a URL or a place you can upload any media that you have. Now, I will say to business owners and to homeowners and citizens, if you've already been talked to and you've already turned this information over, thank you. That's helped us construct this timeline. If you have not been talked to by the FBI, because we have talked to a number of people, those 550 plus interviews don't even account these types of interviews. If you've not been talked to and you have some sort of media in your holdings, or you have surveillance camera footage or cell phone footage, please give that to us. So please call that number. Again, 1-800-225-5324. Our operators are available right now, and they can help you determine whether your material can be sent to us. The additional display of photos we have to help you hone in on that information are here. This is the suspect vehicle. The license plate is very different from our area. Obviously, that's a Utah plate. That is also going to thank you for those of you that have given the families their privacy. The families have been through a lot. Engaged with them once already. We will continue to engage with them again very soon. We want to keep them updated. They went through a tremendous amount of trauma and will continue for many months and ultimately years, and their holidays were not the same as many of yours and ours. So thank you, and I will take questions. Yes, sir.
The map, it's a little difficult to discern, but starting at the far left right angle and heading to the right, can you go the streets?
No, I don't have that today. Okay. I'm not going to go through because it is very convoluted. We can essentially trace their route, and they went back and forth and up and down. It's very difficult to discern for me at this point.
Those are the thoroughfares that he used, essentially?
Well, that's the area, the box within which they stayed. Okay. And just within that box, we don't have anything that indicates they left that box, but we're missing about that 18 minutes of footage. We're dark.
Not the actual route, but just the parameters of where they were cruising around.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
The meeting with people or seeing people during those period when you have mechanical?
We do not at this point. Yes, sir.
What did you recover from the lake? Did it belong to them, and what did you recover off of there, if anything?
We recovered a number of items from the lake, none of which to this point seem pertinent and relevant to this investigation. However, because we know they stopped there right next to the lake, we did feel it was worth the investment of our time and resources to go out and search that lake, and I think we would have been remiss had we not done so. Yes, sir.
Have you been able to link the two suspects to any other network or any other people at this point?
Good question. As of today, we do not see any indications of a foreign-directed terrorist act. This seems to be an inspired terrorist act.
I have a question about I guess so they showed up at the IRC and started shooting at 10:56. They were there for a few minutes, and they got to Seacom Lake at 11:45 a.m. So that's 45 minutes. Were they just driving around the whole time?
Yes, they were.
Is there evidence that they stopped anywhere else?
There is not evidence that they stopped. There is not evidence that they stopped anywhere. There is evidence that they stopped at a parking lot, and they also stopped at the lake, yes. Other than that, it was a lot of driving around.
What parking lot?
I don't recall the exact location.
And did they stay there for a while?
No.
Okay.
Not one.
What does it tell you when these people go in there and shoot, I guess it was 36 people, and then they just remain in the area, and in fact they went home?
We don't know what to make of it. As we have said from day one, they were obviously heavily armed. They had a lot of ammunition. We do not know of any secondary targets that they intended to hit that day. but it's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility, but we're unaware of any secondary targets.
Do you know why they went home or how long they were there?
Pardon me?
Why they went home and how long they were there and what they were doing at home?
We do not.
This is Bo again. Two questions. One, will you be releasing the Enrique Marquez 911 tape?
Not at this point. We're still discussing it at this point, but no, not yet. Yes, ma'am. You've been trying.
Oh, yeah. Can you just account for two questions? The first is, where were they last seen at 12:59? Because you say that's where the gap starts. And the other question is, generally say it's critical to account for these 18 minutes. Is it critical just to build the timeline, or why is it critical? Do you think this is going to lead you somewhere else to some other person or other charge in this case?
So I don't have the exact place where they were last seen at 12:59. They were within that box. But yes, again, why is that 18 minutes critical? It's critical because it's possible, again, possible, that they stopped at whether it be a storage area, a residence, a business. It's possible there was a contact made. We just don't know. It very well may not be an important fact. But until we close that gap, we just don't know for sure. Yes, sir.
What did Syed do while he was in the meeting in the morning? And did he take anything in with him? That was part of his life?
He did. He took a backpack in with him, and he left that backpack. Inside that backpack is where the pipe bombs were.
And that happened early in the morning before the shooting, before he even left?
Yes, it did.
And then at 117, where the 18-minute gap ends, where are they, or where are they at that?
I don't. They're within that L shape because they moved around so much. It's hard to tell exactly where they were and at every single point. But we can track generally their movements to some extent based on all those indicators I talked to you earlier about and other techniques. But those indicators would be traffic cameras, surveillance cameras, witness accounts, that type of thing.
At either end of the 18 minutes, you don't have at least a vague idea of where they were at?
I don't have that with me.
What was the exact time they were picked up by police?
They were initially seen on the surveillance at 2:52 p.m. That's when the surveillance initially caught them driving up to the house. Shortly thereafter, the engagement with police took place, and that's when you had the firefight and ultimately their demise.
Do you have any better idea of why they did this?
We definitely believe this was an inspired act. We do not, again, have any indications of a foreign-directed act as of today.
Any personal grievances you've come to learn about? Why they did, what turned them into killers, and why did they choose this particular target?
Well, you can read the complaint on Enrique. There's some indications in there as to why they chose this intended target, this particular target. I do not know that. I know there was a lot of chatter early on about workplace disputes. We do not see any indications of that. We do not see any witness accounts where there was a fight or an argument with Saeed inside the venue at which this act occurred. Yes, ma'am.
3 hours and 42 minutes you accounted for the span of
Correct.
this, except for the 18. During that time, do you have any records, cell phone contact that they had with other people during that time, or text messaging? Did they go inside the house?
I don't have that available to me. They did not go inside the house.
As far
Yes,
as
ma'am.
You said the 255 surveillance. What surveillance camera is that?
No, that was the 2:52 p.m.
Yes.
That was surveillance. That was the actual detectives who saw the vehicle driving up. I'm going to take 3 more questions. That's it.
Can you please characterize just this whole time? You described it a little bit, but were they just sort of zigzagging around? Were they stopping?
A lot of zigzagging around, going back and forth on the highway, going up, going down. There is no rhyme or reason to it that we can find yet. Maybe that 18-minute closes that gap. Maybe it doesn't.
And between 117 and 252, just more of the same?
More of the same, yes. Yes, sir. Yes,
Are
sir.
you able to determine yet if Farouk was targeting local schools or any other targets for planning for bigger attack?
Other than what you see in the complaint for Enrique Marquez that's already out there, and that listed the Riverside Community College. Other than that, we see no indications of any intended attacks on schools. I'll take 2 questions. I'll give you an extra.
Where was Kashfin during his initial visit to the...
Good question. We don't know the answer. It's possible she was in the vehicle the whole time. And we just don't know for sure. 1 more question.
You
Yes.
spoke about from witnesses that were in the meeting with him for the hour and a half that he was there. What was his demeanor?
The demeanor seemed to be okay. There are photographs with him inside the venue. Seemed to be okay. Again, originally there were accounts that there was some sort of a dispute, that there was some sort of an argument. We have found no legitimate accounts of anything like that at this point. So,
with his work, with his colleagues at the Christmas party?
correct. He sat there with them. There's photographs with him, yes. So at this point, I'm going to end it.
Chief, maybe a question?
Sure.
Just about whether or not you're still on heightened patrols, which I know you were for a long time, and patrolling Moss more. What's sort of the status of all of that?
Yeah, we've returned back to normal operations. So our normal patrol assets that are out there, plus our proactive assets are still out, but we've gone back to our regular staffing levels.
And what about reaching out to the Muslim community? Have you changed how you're doing that? Are you sort of satisfied with the way it was happening before? Have you rethought that? Have you sort of come up with something different?
So I'll be honest with you, so the Muslim community has actually reached out to us quite a bit, and they've invited myself and some folks from law enforcement to a number of events, one in Riverside and one in Chino. So we've engaged in that dialogue, and I've actually had more contact with the Muslim community in the last couple of weeks than I've had, in my entire career. So.
Were you at any time asked to sort of back off from the Muslim community after the shooting by the FBI, so that there wasn't your folks involved at all?
No.
Interacting with them?
No. The relationship has been very good. The partnerships have been very good. And as I said, I've got officers assigned to task forces with the FBI that are following up on any and all leads.
And one other quick question is, have you been able to come up with a cost estimate for the response, or are you not at that stage yet?
No, we have an approximate. Just overtime alone in my department, our overtime costs are approaching about $350,000.
$350,000.
Yeah.
And I imagine the sheriff has another
I don't know if the sheriff has it.
number.
And we have other numbers too. I mean, Public Works and other city entities engaged as well.
Is there a big number that you've come up with among agencies by San Bernardino City?
I can probably provide it later in the day. Collective number.
I think there's a collective number that's been put together by the Office of Emergency Services in our county, including law enforcement as well as county entities and fire responses, and it's nearing $4 million.
That's excluding the city, that's just county?
No, that includes the city as well. It's everybody that responded to this event and the costs associated with it. They're still working on putting the numbers together, but it's nearing $4 million.
And generally, what does that cover?
Overtime, loss of business, salaries for folks that were sent home who didn't work for a period of time, but they were still being compensated. A variety of things.
What period of time does that cover?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Is that including that $350,000?
Yes.
And the other question for you, Sheriff, is, and maybe for you as well, Chief, are you at all rethinking in terms of training or arming your deputies? I know some departments, it's pretty much standard to have either a semi-automatic or an automatic rifle in the trunk. I think some cities even have them now. The dash or on the bump. What is your policy now, or are you thinking about changing that?
All of our patrol units carry a shotgun and a rifle, as well as
rifle?
Absolutely, as well as multiple magazines. As a result of events that we've dealt with before, specifically in Big Bear a few years ago, we equipped our officers with many more loaded magazines in the case that they needed.
So how many do they carry, if you want to say that?
I'm not going to tell you.
And so you're not going to change your weaponry as a result of this event?
No, sir.
And then,
Yeah. So in our case, we carry shotguns as well in every patrol car, and then we have all of our officers have the option of carrying an AR-15 style rifle. In this case, we have many officers that do carry them, and many of them did go on scene. And most of the officers that were engaged in the gun battle were armed with rifles. Just by chance, though, the first handful of officers that went through the door did not have rifles with them on this incident. So, but our policy has always allowed anybody in the department over a certain tenure to be able to do that. So,
do you think you'll I think LAPD automatically carries. They all, as a matter of policy, carry an AR-15 style weapon in the trunk. I'm not sure of that actually, but are you going to switch to something like that where everyone gets one? Or
I don't have the inventory to give everybody one. All of them that we have are issued, and then we also allow our folks to purchase their own and carry their own versions of it as well.
And do you know how many cars on any given day actually end up having them?
I don't know. I mean, we have it in our roster every single day, and it varies from day to day, and we monitor that every single day as to who's carrying a rifle. But I don't necessarily want to put out how many of them do.
Okay. And one other quick question: are you going to change your training at all in terms of these events as a result of what happened?
You know, when you looked at how our initial response went, our initial response and the way that people went into that building and the way that they responded was a direct reflection of the way that we have trained over the years when we've done active shooter training. And even though it's probably been 1.5 years, 2 years since we did the last large-scale active shooter training in the department, I think that training paid off, and the way that we responded was reflective of a very good, professional, efficient response. So I think we're pretty comfortable with that. Obviously, when you have an event like this, you always take lessons learned away from it, and we're kind of going through that process right now. We're going to have an after-action report done on it that'll talk about collective, industry-wide lessons learned that we can share with other law enforcement agencies throughout the country, and we're engaged in that process right now.
The President of the United States this morning issued an executive order requiring dealers of guns at shows, flea markets, and the internet to require background checks of purchasers. What's your thought on that action?
So I'll be honest with you, I actually haven't seen that this morning. I've been in meetings all morning, so I can't comment on it. So.
Sheriff, have you seen that? Do you have any comment on the executive action?
I have not. I haven't seen.
We were at the same meeting this morning. So. All right, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.